Did you shove a man's head up another man's ass?
Gotta be a better way to say that.
Some actors are so naturally gifted in their craft that when they inhabit a role, it's hard to tell where they stop and the character begins. And that's not what we're talking about today. Jason Kent Bateman. He was born in 1969, and he was already in show business as a preteen way back in the 80s. A lot of people don't realize it, but he had already been a mainstay in Hollywood for nearly 2 decades before he became
The one son who had no choice but to keep them all together.
with the early 2000s cult classic Arrested Development. Since then, he's made a name for himself playing, well, pretty much that same character. He's been in dozens of movies and TV shows, and despite the overall quality shifting, I think it's fair to say that he's absolutely friggin' killing it. Mr. Bateman's career got off to a great start, being cast as little James Ingalls on the hit 80s TV show Little House on the Prairie. He followed that up with the role of Derek Taylor on another iconic 80s show, Silver Spoons. He worked steadily through the 80s, having prominent roles in the relatively popular Hogan Family, and a starring role in one season of a show called It's Your Move, but nothing really cemented his place in TV history. It's until he landed the dream role of every teen boy in the late 80s, taking the place of Michael J. Fox in the follow-up to the 1985 hit Teen Wolf. This one, just called Teen Wolf 2, starred Bateman as the teen who, as the title suggests, is a wolf, too. This was no doubt the big break he'd been waiting for, the chance to not only be in a big-budget Hollywood movie, but to be the star. The movie was, unfortunately, pretty bad. It was obvious from the outset that it was just a shameless studio cash grab. But to many people, the best part of that movie was, and still is, Jason Bateman. Unfortunately, instead of this being his big break, the critical failure of the movie and the fact that his name was all over it definitely set him back a bit. He finished out the 80s with a few more parts here and there and a couple of forgettable made-for-TV movies, and then he started the 90s with a blink-and-you'll-miss-it part in the Scott Bakula football film Necessary Roughness. After that, things got pretty quiet. It was pretty much an entire decade of small parts and forgettable TV shows and movies. And then the 2000s were here, a new millennium for a brand new Jason Bateman. He started the 2000s with a starring role in the short-lived TV show Some of My Best Friends, and it was decent. It was like a modern twist on The Odd Couple, with Bateman playing a tidy gay writer, finding a new roommate, and the hijinks that inevitably ensue whenever you put a gay person and a straight person together.
You think I slept with your mother?
Isn't that what we're talking about?
No. You.
They had made a show about Chandler and Joey, and Chandler was gay. 2003, though, saw him take part in another show, a role that would, more than any other, pave the way for the rest of his career. In Arrested Development, Bateman plays Michael Bluth, the straight man in a mostly eccentric cast of characters in what many people consider one of the best shows of the early 2000s. His deadpan delivery and perfect comedic timing really set the tone for the show, and really for the rest of his career. Despite the early success of Arrested Development, his next project is where we get one of his absolute best roles.
F&A, Cotton, F&A. Ouch, town population, you, bro.
Despite the role being small, his performance was instantly memorable, it spawned a meme,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
and entered the popular culture immediately, and you can still see it around the internet today. He followed that up with a few more small cameos and bit parts in TV and animation.
Of Jason Bateman's Bentley.
What did you do to my car?
Dude!
One of my favorite performances of his during this time was a guest spot on Scrubs in 2006.
Don't you think? And, you know, they're kind of like my children. Plus, I make belts out of their necks.
In fact, despite the fact that by this point Arrested Development had been canceled, 2006 was a pretty good year for Mr. Bateman. He had a small part in the Jennifer Aniston Vince Vaughn movie The Breakup. He played a junkie lawyer in the ensemble comedy Smoking Aces.
Come on, man, and bones it, huh? Right there, and then padlock it, and then you put the chain on it. That's enough.
And he starred alongside Zach Braff in the criminally underrated movie The Ex. He played a wheelchair-bound ex of Zach Braff's current girlfriend. Even though it was a comedy, you really got to see a more sinister side to him. And during that same time, he was starring in another short-lived TV show called The Jake Effect, this time playing a hotshot lawyer turned lowly school teacher. It only lasted 7 episodes, and that's about right for what it was. It wasn't great. 2007 is when things really changed for Mr. Bateman, with the hit indie film Juno. Despite an already decades-long career at this point, this was the first chance most people got to see him in a serious dramatic role. 2008 saw him with a few more bit parts before landing the part of Ray in the Will Smith superhero dramedy Hancock, where again, despite the movie's failings, Bateman really shined as the straight-as-an-arrow good guy in a world where literal superheroes exist.
Did you shove a man's head up another man's ass?
2009 gave us Extract, where he snagged the starring role, and I remember being super excited for this movie. It was made by Mike Judge from Idiocracy and Beavis and Butthead, and I remember thinking it was going to be great, funniest movie of the year. It was not, but I do remember thinking that the best part of the whole thing was Jason Bateman and his performance. He followed that up with the ensemble comedy Couples Retreat.
What do you think I should do? I mean, you get a good vibe from us or not so good vibe? I don't know, Sal. What about this room?
And he continued that trend on into 2010 with the dramedy The Switch with Jennifer Aniston, which is really more of the same, but we get to see him in a more dramatic role. And that brings us to 2011, which introduced us to the hit movie and another of Jason Bateman's absolute best, Horrible Bosses. And no, it's not a masterpiece, and it doesn't really deserve any Oscars or anything like that. And obviously it's just Jason Sudeikis and Charlie Kelly and Jason Bateman playing just barely exaggerated versions of themselves. But this is objectively hilarious and definitely deserves its R rating, if you were wondering. Bateman really shines here. Like his character in Arrested Development, he plays a straight man in a mostly eccentric cast. Charlie Kelly and Jason Sudeikis do an excellent job, and the way the three of them play off of each other is it's really good, and he really gives it to this part.
And look how fast I'm picking out the scrap, I'm moving like super fast. I can't even feel my nose.
Can I get in here? Do you want to know what's weird? Yeah. That I feel like I should be panicking right now, and I am a little bit, but it's in a very, very good way.
Yeah, but you're not, right?
Like a good kind of panic. It's like I feel like I want to die right now, but I also feel very, very, very good.
Yeah. Hey!
He followed that up with the raunchy Trading Places ripoff, The Change-Up, with Ryan Reynolds.
Good story.
You son of a bitch! How dare you tell him that? God!
Wow.
Another instant classic. This time, played basically the same guy he played in Horrible Bosses, except that, this time he's a wife and kids and trades places with Ryan Reynolds. It's a formula for comedy gold. 2013 gave us his first movie directing credit with the film Bad Words, which he also stars in, and it was pretty good. Not a terrible first outing as director, and his acting was great, as you'd expect.
Your chair called me for help. It's like, help me.
2014 gave us The Longest Week, rom-com/dramedy he starred in alongside Olivia Wilde, and it was also fine. Not exactly The Notebook, but we got another look at his dramatic acting side, and not to be insensitive, but Jason Bateman isn't really a Ryan Gosling type. He followed that up with This Is Where I Leave You, an ensemble dramedy where it plays a sadder, more sarcastic version of pretty much the same guy he always plays. And it was pretty good. And of course, the obligatory sequel Horrible Bosses 2 to close out the year. It was decent as far as sequels go. It could have been worse, but it didn't really add anything over the first one.
Look what we got. Is that a Sharpie?
Things slowed down a bit for him after Horrible Bosses 2 up until 2016, where he voiced the shady grifter fox Nick Wilde in the animated Zootopia.
This is, we gotta go.
Why? Whose car is it?
The most feared crime boss in Tundra Town. They call him Mr. Big and
he followed that up with his best small part since Dodgeball.
No, it's a push. Boy, 50-50 shot. You missed that. At least you found the handle. Boy, he's still a scared little bitch.
After that, he had a return to form with two more raunchy comedies in Office Christmas Party and then Game Night, neither of which are particularly memorable, with the exception of a few gags here and there, with him playing essentially the same character in both movies, the same one in pretty much every movie. Summer of 2017, however, saw him return to the small screen, or rather, his premiere on the streaming screen, with the release of the hit Netflix show Ozark. And as far as acting and delivery and timing, Ozark definitely ranks as one of the absolute best of Jason Bateman. In Ozark, he plays the accountant Marty Bird, who, you guessed it, is pretty much just Jason Bateman if he were wrapped up in a money laundering scheme with a Mexican drug cartel. It's absolutely fantastic. I've heard people say it's a little slow, and honestly it can be in the middle seasons, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a show with better characters and suspense and acting, and it's like this is the role he'd been training his whole life to play. Every second he's on the screen, he steals the show. And even though he's still basically that same character you've seen in everything he's ever been in, it's impossible not to feel for him. And on top of being amazing as an actor, he's also credited with directing several episodes and gets a producing credit as well.
And if I want to put all $7,945,400 into a hot tub, get buck naked, and play Scrooge McDuck, that is 100% my business. Now where's my money?
And after looking back through his career to make this video, it's occurred to me that what makes Jason Bateman so versatile as an actor is not that he can act out a huge range of emotions, which he totally can, or that he has timing and delivery that's second to none, which he totally does, is that you can plop nearly any character he's ever played into nearly any movie or show ever made, and it will probably make sense. And I'm not saying that to be mean, I think it's fascinating. How many other actors can you say that about, honestly? So there you have it, the absolute best of Jason Bateman, at least according to one guy on the internet. Obviously, this wasn't a top 10 list or anything, and I might have gotten a little too long-winded in parts, but please let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I missed or any disagreements. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe. Maybe hit the bell button. I don't really know what that does, but I hear other people say it. So have at it, and until next time, thanks for watching.
Well, you can't be very good then.